Stranger Things 4 Part 2 is probably one of the most anticipated finales of any season that we've had. Netflix really did a good job of marketing this one, unlike a lot of their other shows and movies that they do a pretty poor job of marketing. This was a thrilling conclusion, but it was long. This whole season was long. The first part was 7 episodes of like 9 hours of Stranger Things. This is about 4 hours, so we sat down and we watched all of it right away. This is a spoiler-free review of Stranger Things 4 Part 2. Stick around after a little bit for some spoiler talk, so if you want to watch it and then get to the spoilers, they'll be at the end there after the whole conclusion we have here. But starting off, this was just a really, really emotional Part 2 here. The performances given, especially by Gaten Matarazzo, Sadie Sink, Millie Bobby Brown, Caleb McLaughlin, Matthew Modine, all of those are just at the tippy top of the performances that are given here. But everybody really, this cast is massive, and it's massive, but everybody really is great. Everybody really does a good job here, and they all sort of coalesce together. And so the Duffer Brothers really figured out a way to get everybody in the first part sort of split off into 4 directions here, and then they all sort of coalesce together from, Russia, California, Nevada, and Hawkins, and sort of the upside down, I guess you could say. We were left off, if you haven't seen part 1, sorry, this is a spoiler for part 1, but we were left off in part 1 learning how Vecna, or number 1, came to be, and we kick off part 2 right away. So without spoiling anything, part 1, or episode 8, really sets up the conclusion here. It sets up sort of that emotional bits to it. There's not as much action as you'd think, but then part 2, or episode 9, really hammers it home with about 2 hours and 20 minutes, a full, more than feature length of just action, horror, emotion, disaster, and everything you could put together, and it really, really does a good job of it. However, there are some issues with the season, and especially the pacing. It's awesome to have feature-length episodes. It's awesome to have full-length episodes like we do, but they're too long. It's too long just from like sitting there and focusing on everything. Obviously, people's attention spans are less than what they used to be, but 2 hours and 20 minutes for a season finale is too long. They could have split this up into 3 parts of all of it, given us 3, 3, and 3, or even more than that, because this last episode could have been at least 2 episodes by itself. And there are some sort of natural breaks in the story where you could have done that, and it probably would have done a lot better here from the pacing issues. The storytelling that the Duffer Brothers did with that sort of quad fold of how you split them together works here a little bit, but you can see it sort of creaking and bending and breaking because everything is sort of smashing into each other, especially near the end of it. And it's just like a just nonstop marathon. And you need those breaks, and they do offer up that, especially when the more tense moments come. So you're tense and tense and tense, and then it cuts. But in the back of your head, you're still thinking, oh my God, what is happening to these characters while this other stuff is going on? So it's sort of a double-edged sword where it breaks up the tension without having some sort of jump scare like in a horror movie or whatever. But it is always in the back of your head like, well, why did you just cut away from that? I want to see the other characters. And so it works, but you can see it breaking. And if they do this again for what is an inevitable season 5, it might not work as well. It might not work at all, because this season was just massive, which was a detriment, but also a blessing, because we got a lot to work with some of the characters. The characters that you didn't get as much from in part 1, which is surprising because it was 7 episodes and 9 hours. You get a little bit more from here. You get a little bit more to develop. You get a lot from Max, and a lot from Eleven, obviously, because she's the star. And you get a lot from Lucas. Lucas was sort of the forgotten man in that part 1, but you get a lot from him here, and you get a lot more interspersing between the Russia crew and the California crew. So the California crew also was a little bit forgotten in part 1. You get some good stuff to work with from them here, especially at the beginning of episode 8. Holy crap, there is a moment with Will that you will not forget that isn't the obvious thing that everybody is thinking, but it fits in with that. The speech he gives is just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and you get a lot of good stuff between him and Jonathan here. You don't get as much action with those guys, but they don't need the action. They're sort of here to help more than anything. But where you do get the action is from Steve and Nancy and Robin and basically everybody that's in the Upside Down, Eddie, and you just get a lot of action from those people. You get a lot of the horror stuff from them, so it switches between like haunted house horror to slashers to there's even Western sort of vibes in episode 8, and they just do such a good job of mixing all of this stuff together. It feels very much so like a Marvel movie, especially that last episode. It feels like a big team-up Marvel movie, but it leaves you off with a nice conclusion, but it does set up for a season 5. So we're not going to spoil anything about the season 5 that you would get right now because this is the spoiler-free section of the review, but safe to say it is a very satisfying ending, and you get a lot of satisfying moments here. That's a big portion of this part 2 was the moments, moment to moment. It's satisfying, it's emotional, it's weighty. I cried during parts, and it's just a great conclusion to this section of the story that we're getting, because there's another chapter, there's another book to come, so to say. But Stranger Things 4 part 2, pardon me, is satisfying. It's thrilling. Those sort of issues that you get with pace and length could have sunk this season, that could have sunk this series, but they rein it in at the end, and they give you enough to work with to where you sort of get over the fact that those issues arise, and it's a fantastic, thrilling conclusion to this story. But that'll do it for this spoiler-free section, so if you don't want to get spoiled, stop watching, please. Thank you. So I'll give you some time to stop watching, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and do all that YouTube stuff, because it really helps me out to know what you want to see and what I'm going to do with the channel. So 3, 2, 1. Now that we've gotten the spoilers out of the way, or the spoiler-free section out of the way, here's the spoilers for Season 4 of Stranger Things. No, Steve doesn't die. I was expecting him to die the entire time. I know a lot of other people were, and I was saying if he would die, I would be extremely upset by that. But luckily, he didn't. There was sort of a fake out where there was a hugely emotional moment with Max where Vecna was going to get her, and they took it away. And it feels cheap, the way that they did it. It was very much so like in Rise of Skywalker when Rey just sort of magically learns how to heal and heals Kylo Ren so that they can go off and fight the big bad. I know I was saying how satisfying this was. That was a very unsatisfying thing that they did, where they sort of took that huge, gigantic moment where you're going, oh no, please God, why? Don't kill fucking Max. And they did, but then they didn't. And so that takes away one of the big emotional moments. The other huge, gigantic emotional moment was Eddie's death. He went out as a hero, and they were setting this up and sprinkling it through in his backstory and his character, especially in the D&D campaign and all of that. They were saying how, he's always running, he's always a coward, and here he takes the hero's way out to distract from the demo bats or whatever, and keep Dustin safe from those demo bats. And it was just, when Dustin finds him and is on the ground and he's telling him basically the speech he gave in the lunchroom, it was heart-wrenching to listen to. And then later on, when Dustin told Eddie's uncle that he had passed and gave him the guitar pick, that was also another one where the waterworks started here. The moment that I was looking forward to, that I know a lot of people were looking forward to, with Eddie's guitar playing. What song was he gonna play? People were saying The Final Countdown. I thought it was going to be Rainbow in the Dark. I was hoping it would be Rainbow in the Dark. But it was Master of Puppets, and it fit so perfectly with the scene. It was sort of this half and half where you could hear Eddie playing it, and then it kicked into the actual song. And it's just such a perfect song for what Vecna is doing. There was some dropping of the word Puppet Master in episode 8 here. And so it was just a great, great use of the song in this hugely emotional, hugely action-packed scene where the tension is ratcheting up and ratcheting it up, and you're going, what song is he going to play? They're teasing the guitar, and then he kicks into the riff for Master of Puppets, and it was just perfect. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire season there, and it was one of the ones from the first trailer that we saw that I wanted to see. And just as a heavy metal fan wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt here, there was a lot of mention of heavy metal. There was an Iron Maiden cassette tape when they were going through looking for cassette tapes to play for Nancy, and that was great. The whole season felt like, especially the end, felt very satisfying, but it felt like, oh, there's more to come, and that's the intrigue that's coming. Like, oh, how are they going to do this? They're going to have a time jump because Vecna is not dead. He gets lit a flame by Molotov cocktails and all of that, but he doesn't die, and he doesn't die on camera, and so if they don't die on camera, they're not dead. And especially the ending of the season when they're on the hill looking and the giant cloud comes up. So we learn the answer here too, what came first, the Mind Flayer or Vecna, and it is the Mind Flayer. Now, whether or not that the Mind Flayer is like the Emperor to Vecna's Darth Vader or the other way around, I'm not sure. I was thinking during the episode, oh crap, like the Mind Flayer is the Emperor and Vecna is the Darth Vader, and we might get that moment in season 5 with Vecna sort of turning on the Mind Flayer. Who knows what they can go to with this? They've got a lot of stuff to work with, especially with the characters. What's going to happen to Max? What's going to happen to Hawkins? What's going to happen to Hopper? The one thing that was incredibly disappointing and definitely dragged this down a bit for me was the fact that you didn't get to see Murray, Yuri, or Dimitri at all. You saw them in the helicopter. You saw Murray celebrating and calling them, you crazy bastards and stuff like that. But you didn't see anything else from that after. They were huge, gigantic parts of why this season sort of worked, why they prevailed, or almost prevailed here. And they didn't get any sort of payoff. They didn't get any sort of, hey, here's what they're doing. Are they best friends? Are they all hanging out now and speaking Russian to each other? They just didn't. There's just nothing there. And with a runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, you couldn't fit an extra 2 minutes to get a scene with them. You couldn't fit that extra part in because if you're going balls to the wall with the length, you just couldn't get the time for those characters. It didn't make very much sense to me in that way. Hopefully we get to see all three of them because I love Dimitri as a character. I love the actor, and he offered such a nice foil to Hopper where he's suave and he's not sort of this hammer like Hopper is. And they get oh my god, that moment with Hopper and the sword, like he looked like Conan the Barbarian. Maybe we should get David Harbour to play Conan the Barbarian. Who knows? He cuts off the Demogorgon's arm and then slashes its head off. That was utterly satisfying. Murray with the flamethrower, just so many great moments. And then, of course, obviously Hopper and Joyce's embrace and their almost, encounter that they have. And then the phone rings. It was great. A great touch there, sort of callback. But this season was fantastic. The first part was better than the second part just because it was spread out over longer, and the long episodes were still long, but they weren't 2 hours and 20 minutes long. This could have been split up better, and so it would have been paced much better. But those issues don't really take it down, and hopefully we get to see the thrilling conclusion to Stranger Things with the 5th season, whenever that's going to come out. They've said, we're not going to take as long. It's not going to take as long to make it. Obviously, 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic sort of threw a wrench into this. But what do you think is going to happen in Stranger Things 5? Don't let me know in the comments because I don't want to spoil this for anybody, but we'll do a separate video for that, what's going to happen a little bit after this so that everybody can see it. So hold your opinions for that video, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps me out to know what you guys want to see on the channel. And Stranger Things 4 Part 2 was fantastic, and I can't wait for more. So thank you for watching, and don't spoil it for anybody, or else the Demogorgon's going to come get you if you spoil it. So don't spoil this for anybody. Check it out again, and I will see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.